Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show, coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends from DVCResaleMarket.com, Ms. Jody Gross.
Hello.
From DVCRentalStore.com, Mr. Paul Krieger.
Hey,
Almost said Ms. Paul Krieger.
I'll answer to whatever.
I think it was, the throw pillows.
Okay, so I don't mean to sidebar this conversation, but when we got married, the priest asked if I would take Paul as my wife, and I lost it. So
And yet she said yes.
he came back and fixed it, but
I'm a great wife.
And from I have more information than I was really bargaining for at the start of this show. And from OneraFinancial.com, Mr. Amy Krieger.
hello.
And back in the production nook producing for us this week, Mr. John Sicari. And just a reminder, folks, this show, along with all the DVC content we produce, brought to you by World of DVC, those companies I just mentioned, DVCResaleMarket.com, for your DVC resale contract needs, DVCRentalStore.com if you'd like to rent out some points to try DVC before you buy, or if you're a DVC member with points that are going to expire or points that you want to rent out, great place to do it. And of course, MoneraFinancial.com, the crack dealers of the DVC world, because they make it so incredibly, ridiculously easy to finance that DVC contract. So please, if you like our content, support our sponsors. This week, we're going to talk about something that needs to be talked about. And that is the fact that we are in a buyer's market with DVC resale contracts. Now, what does that mean? Well, a buyer's market means you have more sellers than you do buyers. So buyers are in a stronger position to negotiate for their contracts. And they are. If you hear barking, that's just my dogs heard something somewhere 8 miles away and are barking. We are definitely in a buyer's market right now.
Yes.
A lot of contracts on the market has not been a fact that has not been missed by our group on our Facebook group, DVC Fan, which you should definitely join. Why? Why are so many people selling their contracts? Let me talk to you.
Okay, so
Jody.
I mean, we do get a lot of answers to that. I mean, a lot of it is some of the stuff that's been in the news lately that we've all heard about, and kind of we were talking, I think, off camera about people moving down here with your real estate company that you have. I've actually had a lot of people lately say they packed up and they're moving to Florida. That was a surprisingly a big chunk of people also selling, but a lot of it is just, some of the political stuff, some of the stuff in the news, people feeling a little nickeled and dimed. But
a lot of the changes that Disney's been making have, a lot of people unhappy, and some people are just saying, you know what?
Yeah, and a lot of it isn't, that they're dumping all of them. Like I just spoke to a gentleman the other day who has like 9 contracts and is selling about half. He's like, we're still going to go. We like Disney. We're just not going to go as much, probably, at least for right now. So there's a lot of reasons, but it's sort of a culmination of a bunch of things as to why the.
And as a result of this, people are able to negotiate a little bit more than maybe they have been historically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially on a contract like a Saratoga Springs or an Animal Kingdom or an Old Key West where there's a ton of inventory. They have a lot of choices. They're not like, oh, if this buyer's real stuck on, or I'm sorry, the seller's real stuck on their price, there's another one that they can make an offer on. And so, I would definitely say to sellers, let's be flexible, let's be negotiable. With that being said, I don't want the takeaway to be the sky is falling and put in offers at 50% off, because it's
No.
not going to happen. And believe me, we see them coming through, and I get it, give it the good old college try, but it's not a fire
You're just
sale.
wasting everybody's time.
Yes, but it's just not going to happen. First of all, it wouldn't pass right of first refusal. The seller doesn't need to sell for 50% off. Do they maybe need to lower their prices a bit? Sure, a couple dollars, $5, even $10 maybe. But it's not going to, you're not going to get a Polynesian for $100 a point. Just want to let everybody know. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but so sometimes when we do talk about it being a seller's market or a buyer's market, it doesn't mean the sky is falling and there's a fire sale.
It just means they're willing to play ball a little bit with the price. It's a situation we've not been in with DVC for quite some time. It's
been a while.
It's been a while throughout. The pandemic and everything. We thought, we'll sort of pivot into a buyer, but people were buying like crazy.
They were.
And we've talked about that before. People had extra money from this, that, and otherwise that they weren't spending, stimulus, all that kind of stuff, and people were buying like nuts. And
there was a lot less inventory to buy then as well.
And
Right.
so now things have pivoted a little bit. I know that, and looking on on DVC Resale Market's website, there's even some sellers right now that are offering to pay closing costs to sort of get their contract to move. So, people are willing to play ball with the price a little bit more.
Yeah, we were trying to be creative with some of the ways to help buyers that want to get in. And I'm sure, Amy, if the seller's paying the closing costs, it might help with buyers having to bring less to the table when it comes to financing. So, we do try and be creative with that, but there are there's some good deals to be had. If you were on the fence about joining or adding on, now is definitely a good time.
Yeah, I think that would be my big takeaway is that if you're a buyer, this is like the best time to be in that position.
Yes.
Because there is some room you got to be reasonable. As Jody mentioned, you're not getting a Polynesian contract for $100 a point. And we're also living in a world where Disney's been very aggressive in buying contracts back. I had one bought back. And we're seeing with the right of first refusal reports, we're seeing they are buying stuff back. And that whole thing is to make sure the price on these doesn't drop too low.
Yeah, it does. Right of first refusal does protect the value, of DVC. And it does kind of stop it from getting too low. But we are seeing some really good deals. And then also with the Grand Floridian Tower coming down in a lot lower of a price than we thought when it came back online, because it was originally $255 a point. It's $207 now, and it had some incentives when it first went on sale for current owners. And we saw some Grand Floridian contracts on the resale market come down in response to that. And there are just some really good deals. Like, it's really hard for me not to add on to our current Grand Floridian, because there are people that are buying at less than what Paul and I bought for when we bought our contract, a year and a half or so ago, or 2 years ago. I can't remember.
Don't give me ideas.
We don't have enough points there.
Look at the add-on-itis happening right in front of us. And for someone like me with a terrible, terrible case of add-on-itis, knowing it's a buyer's market does make it appealing.
Yeah, take advantage of it.
Yeah.
I do go in and look.
And
And
I would say it's a very interesting buyer's market, because it's not the fact that sales are down, but there are tons of buyers out there still looking for stuff.
Absolutely.
It's just that there's a larger sales inventory for many of the factors that, we've already discussed, which, I go back to the one that you mentioned is, a lot of people just feel like it's nickel and diming to go to Disney these days. And so some people have maybe been priced out, and maybe they're considering selling for that reason. You also have to wonder, there are people that are sort of getting into the age range where maybe Disney Vacation Club has run its course. And so maybe those people are like, well, I'm not using my points anymore. So I might as well go ahead and sell those contracts. But, there are still a lot of buyers out there. So you might have more than one person looking at the same contract that you are, but there's a lot more sellers right now as well. So.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I don't want sellers to feel like this is that this is a really bad time to have your contract on the market. We're still selling like crazy.
Yeah.
It's just simple supply and demand. There's more listings coming in than there are buyers, but by no means have the brakes been hit.
Nothing's dried up.
No.
No.
We're not seeing like, where's the buyer?
So
They're still coming through.
You're still busy.
We're still busy.
Yeah, Monera is still busy as well. And, I think that as we see these new resorts come for sale, we do have a lot of buyers that are just upgrading. So they're buying into Grand Floridian, all these new villas, and some are planning to buy into Disneyland Tower. So they're selling to prepare for that purchase instead. And so when they do that, you've got more points coming into the system, right? Because you're selling an older contract, but now you're buying the new points that DVC is offering. So as they continue to add new resorts, we're going to see more contracts because the membership base is growing. You know what I mean? The amount of contracts and points out there is going to also grow.
True. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. It's as somebody who pays attention to the business of Disney the way I do, this is something that's very interesting to me. It's kind of watching how this, because I've only been a DVC member for 2-3 years now. And just kind of watching what happened prior to the pandemic, where the market was, what happened during the pandemic to the market, and now where it's coming from now, is just, I don't know. I'm a nerd, and I just find it fascinating. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I know there's a lot of people out there that have been on the fence about buying into DVC, and this is probably the best time to buy.
Yeah,
totally.
That we're going to find for a while. And, when you were talking about people feeling like they're nickel and dimed, feeling like it's too much work to go in the parks, I'm also hearing a lot of people now doing resort-only stays.
Yes.
And finding different ways to use their contracts. These are the people, obviously, that are not selling. Or maybe they are selling, as Jody pointed out, selling some of their contracts, not all of them, because the parks get to be it's too much of a hassle.
Yeah.
And, that's like my thing when I stay at a DVC resort. A lot of times I'm doing resort only. I'm there for the resort because these resorts are destinations unto themselves.
Absolutely.
So just interesting to watch how it happens and where this goes. Does it get worse? Does it get better? Markets always change.
Yeah, and I would say if you want some more information, if you want to dig into the numbers more and see more of the data, there are 2 great blogs that we repost over on DVC Fan, but that are posted over on DVC Resale Market's website. It would be the Right of First Refusal or the ROFR blog that is posted every month, and also the Average Price blog, which estimates what the monthly average price per point certain resorts are selling at. And I think those are both very good informational pieces to take into consideration because, like you said earlier, Jody, you can't come in with a low ball offer because that's wasting everyone's time and Disney's just going to buy it back. And so having those understandings of, okay, where is the wiggle room that I can maybe put a decent offer in for that contract.
Right. You look at the ROFR report, see where it's getting bought back right now, and then take a look at what's being offered and formulate your offer from that.
Right.
Is not terrible advice.
Yep. There's also a thread on Disboards. It's the ROFR thread, and you can track. A lot of people will post that are going through the process, and if they get ROFR'd or if they pass, and so you can see kind of almost like it feels like live updates, right, of what's going on. So that's another a thread that you could keep track of as well.
Lots of resources out there.
Yeah, and I don't mention that enough on these shows, and I got to get better about it. Incredible community of folks over on disboards.com in the DVC forums. Incredible information,
Yes.
support. If you have questions, things like that. Also, our Facebook group, facebook.com/DVCfan, is another great resource. We have like almost 21,000 now, I think,
Yeah.
in that group.
Yep. There's a lot of knowledge between Disboards and the DVC fan group. And so they're both great places to, just ask questions and just read and learn.
So there you go. There you have it. And that will do it for this week's episode of our show. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back with you again next week with another episode of the DVC Show. Have a great week, everybody.